different stream. This whole kind of category is called VFX Suite Practice, Practice, Practice. I've decided to change tacks on how I originally started because I'm not going to walk you through the whole process. But basically, this is going to be sort of a little bit of a practice run to get up to speed in terms of what's involved with things like on-set data wrangling, on-set and facility side production coordination and production management, right? Especially in terms of visual effects, right? So this is kind of my opportunity to sit down, take a look at a few things, and just sort of practice, 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 right? And one of the key things about sort of doing this kind of thing, especially on set, on location problem solving, is just being able to think on the fly. So I'm diving in cold, guys. No preparation, no notes or anything. We're just gonna go for it, right? So now the idea of this is to kind of explore the role of VFX production coordinator and VFX data wrangler in terms of both facility side and production side, right? So facility side would basically be in studio, sat in front of a computer, and production side would generally be on set, on location, right? So let's take a look at how we're going to approach this, right? So the very first thing that I'm going to do, well, we're going to be doing a couple of different things. We're going to have a look at equipment considerations, visual effects considerations, list of assumptions. We'll also be looking at data wrangling, what type of data we're going to be keeping track of, and just sort of diving in with both feet and starting to build up this repertoire of different tools and skills that we're going to be able to utilize on set or, again, in the facility side studio, right, in terms of this. So that's probably the first port of call, is just kind of understanding the difference between, say, a VFX production coordinator on set and one in the studio. So we'll talk a little bit about that, or rather, I will talk a little bit about that and try to work it out in my head. So with the advent of this, the first thing that happened was, wow, a glut of information cascaded into my brain. There's certain things like equipment that you'll need on set, things like CBGBs, chrome ball, gray ball, things like lens distortion grids, Macbeth charts, what you would need for shooting textures, things that you might need for shooting HDRIs. And then there's the whole kind of data side of things. Well, what are we going to need to acquire from the camera? So we're going to need things like lens consideration, focal distance, all kinds of different stuff, right? And then there's the whole CG side of things. So what would you talk to what would you talk to your asset guys about? What would you talk to your layout department about? There's this idea of organizing LUTs across all departments, and understanding the dependencies on other things across all departments, and it's just like everything's hitting me. So I'm trying to use this to try to sort through my thoughts and try to figure out step by step what the considerations that I need to put foremost are, and then how to organize them. So I think, I was wrestling with a couple of different ways to approach this, right? So should I first consider what kind of equipment and what kind of roles will be utilized on set? Or should I work out a daily routine of this is what you do when you get in, and just so it puts a little bit of a framework around it? But I thought I'd start here with data. As with most sort of computer graphics workstation geeks, it's all about being able to sit down and organize your pipeline or your workflow via an Excel spreadsheet or F-Track or Shotgun or whatever. So in this case, I'm using FileMaker Pro, and I just grabbed the default template from the Visual Effects Society for their camera reports. And I feel like this might be somewhat dated, but the information is all there. So I'm going to take a look at this and we'll sort of break it down. What I like about this is that I also have FileMaker Go on my iPhone and iPad, which allows me to access the same database and et cetera, et cetera. So it's quite cool. Let's take a look at the full layout. Now, I know there are a few other utilities out there that do the same sort of thing, right? So we'll be investigating that as well. I have in the past, like 6-7 years ago, used Synchronize, which was an interesting production management tool for live action filmmaking. And I do know that they use Synchronize on his Dark Materials and Discovery of Witches, right? So I'll talk a little bit about that. There's also Satellite, or Satellite, however you want to pronounce it. That's another sort of production management, data wrangling type tool, and apparently a massive upgrade to this. But let's start here, and we'll take it from there. So the first thing I'm going to do is I will pop open. This ought to be cool. Let's pop open here. Yeah, I started my first take talking about production coordinators, production managers, and nah, we don't want to. Let's just dive in. You can find role descriptions and things like that on Screen Skills. So I think I will probably skip that, right? So let's go into my playlists. I think I've got it in this particular playlist. Let's go to my library and is it in here? I thought it was in here. Let's go in here, show more. Okay, so that's okay. Let's go and just do a quick little search without the effects. That should be a good search term. So let's take a look at, you know what, let's just dive in. I'm a bit nervous and I wanted to find a clip that would be fairly easy for me to kind of get into straight away, but let's just jump into it. So this is gonna have a bit of preamble. Let's see if we can skip past that and take a look at a particular shot or shot setup, right? So let's zip forward a bit. Okay, so this one might be a good one to talk about because I've been in a similar setup such as this in the past, right? So let's take a look at this particular sequence and see how we're going to approach it. Now, ideally, what we would probably get is sort of a scene description and a side. Actually, let's pop into this. So we go back to layout mode. Let's go back to the home screen and let's call this VFX. Let's just start off with VFX suit and practice one, right? Okay, so that's cool. I'm gonna pop into the full layout. I haven't seen this ahead of time, so I'm just kind of like, okay, trying to absorb it all at once, right? So slate information, we're not going to have that. I'll talk a little bit about default slates, camera A, first unit. Let's say we're doing data wrangling, so this will be us, Al, Kang, Art, right? So that's cool. Slate is defined to require a value. Allow this field to remain empty. Let's revert that record. There we go. All right, so let's come back here. Is there a master sheet where this is culling data from? Possibly. No, that seems good. Oops. Okay, so we've got a date and a time here. Wow, this really is old, this spreadsheet, guys. So I'm going by UK date management. So UK dates are done day, month, year, right? Which, to be honest, since I was a kid, I thought was way more logical anyway. Okay, so let's go to where we are today. We're on the 16th. And, oops. We want to go back to our... was it the print layout? No, it wasn't the print layout. That's cool. I only just discovered this layout drop down. I've been going up to view layout, right? So we want to go to iPad, iPhone, iPad multi, full layout. That's it, right? So let's go to our full layout. And yeah, we don't need the time, right? So what goes in here? What the final VFX shot name is, not commonly known at shoot time. Oh yeah, okay. So a lot of times the VFX shot numbering will be different from the production shot numbering, right? So let's say, let's call this shot 1, VFX shot 1, right? Oh, I keep doing that. That's cool though. I keep doing that because I'm clicking here. So I'd imagine this is where we stick our thumbnail of the shot that we're after, right? So let's say we're shoot day 1, right? And this is, what's this character's name again? Gamora's sister is Crikey. I don't know. Can't remember now. Okay, so Gamora's sister, I think it's 2 A's. Gamora's sister runs through barren wasteland. Something like that. That's what it looks like. I know it's a blasted battlefield, right? But let's leave it at that. So let's do this properly. Let's grab that thumbnail. Why not? Okay, so there's a thumbnail of the shot. I wonder if I can copy paste this in. Okay, so what we're going to do is assume that we've just gotten the, hang on a sec, let's see, can we pop in here? Diagram photo 1. Yeah, there we go. Cool. So let's pop over back to our full layout. There we go. We got an update on there. So let's say we got our script breakdown, and this is what we get. Gamora's sister runs through barren wasteland. So let's pretend we haven't seen the shot, right? So, and let's say, as sometimes is the case, we don't have a storyboard, right? So, director might say low-level shot, camera tracking from left to right, right? Not even, right? So it could be low-level tracking shot. Okay, cool. So we've got script location, HDRI, element type, camera move description. Ah, there we go. Camera move description. Low level tracking shot. L2R. Something like that. I'm using Ed, and Eddie storyboard terminology, so or storyboard labeling, but actually, you know what? Let me take a look at some of the sides from the production. I can't show the sides because I'm under NDA, but I'll have them open on another window just so I can kind of reference it, right? Things like call sheets and dailies and things like that. Yeah, that's like high security stuff, guys. So let me see if I can call this up, and I just want it as a guide so I can have it there on a separate window. Well, it's not like it's super secret. Don't kind of sit there going, what is he hiding? It's like these mega industrial, it's nothing really. It's just the description of the scene, and it's nothing to get super excited about, but it is under NDA, so it's nothing glamorous. It's like me not showing you a dope sheet from Ed, and Eddie that's got the timing, 20 frames to this pose, 4 frames to that pose. It's boring, right? But I can't show it. So it's that kind of idea. So let me pop over into production. Just hunting down my call sheets here. One quick second. If not, I'll, just, it's not hugely important. I will pick it up eventually, and then, we'll just keep going. You wanna, let's leave it. Let's, oh, there we go. Got it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch to my Be Right Back screen, just in case it accidentally pops up. Okay, cool. We're back. Yeah, I just wanted to see how they broke it down, right? So, looks like they're using dot notation, right? So for the VFX shot, the dot notation would be something, and I'm assuming here, but it'd be something like scene 17 or scene 7 shot 12, right? And then there is takes, right? So take F, right? So that might be our visual effects shot and scene as well, actually. Something that I've forgotten here, which is a little bit of a schoolboy error, is just a notation of sort of the exterior, right? And just trying to think what that. So let's say it's planet surface, right? So, but it's a battlefield. I can't remember what the planet surface was. So battlefield, and then this would be there's a day notation. Now I'm not sure if that's the story day or the shoot day, but I'm gonna assume it's the story day, right? So let's say this is day 20, right, of that. And then we got the description, which would be that. Gamora's sister runs through the wasteland. And then there would be a number of shots allocated, the script location. So this would be, you know what, let's call it Planet X, right? I know the Canon guys are like, you don't remember where that battle took place? Planet X, right? Why not, right? And then the set location would be at the studio. So it would be Studios, perhaps stage 3, something like that, right? HDR file type, element type. So let's leave that for now. So that's usually the information that you get, right? So I'm just double checking here, you know, along with unit hours and crew allocated and et cetera, et cetera. The shots allocated. So let's do that. Let's pop that in there. Shots allocated, right? So let's say the sequence. Okay, so Gamora's sister's running through the barren wasteland. So what we're trying to do here now is to break down the shots allocated with very little reference, right? We may have seen the storyboards or whatever, but we also have to do a little bit of mind reading because the director may change his mind on the day depending on how the storyboards look. I know I've spoken with Bryan Singer about this really briefly when I had an opportunity to meet and chat with him in Vancouver on the set of the X-Men. And of course, being a former storyboard artist, I asked him, well, how much do storyboards factor into your process? And he's like, oh, you know, for planning, but almost none when I get on location on the day, because I liked to be inspired by the location as well. So that was kind of interesting. I think a lot of directors will have that. We'll find that storyboards are too confining. Then you got the other side, Hitchcock, who, you know, loves storyboarding things out. But let's say we've got Gamora, sister runs through the barren wasteland. So I probably want a mid shot, maybe a close up, and then a long shot, right? Basic film school stuff. So let's say there are 3 shots allocated, right? Okay, that's cool. What are these guys here? That will open up. Oh, so they're back to those thumbnails. So they're probably further diagrams. Oh, multicam view. There we go. right? So if we got a cam A, cam B. So here's where we need to start planning this out in case we do have a cam 1, cam 2, right? So Alexa, 2K, let's see if they've updated their database. So what we want is the no Sony Cine Alta. So I need to find out where this guy lives, right? So it's just an edit list, I guess. Assumably stored somewhere in memory. Let's dig up a camera and let's fill this guy out, right? I happen to know what camera will concern me, so let's take a quick look for that one. Okay. I know I got loads of windows and stuff open, Explorer windows. It's just like the bane of my son's existence, but there we go. Okay, so we're after the Sony Venice, right? So I guess so there's no manufacturer name, right? So I think what we probably do is something like this. Venice, and I know the Venice is 6K with the ability to do 8. Yeah, 6K sensor, right? And likely shooting at 6K. Production's likely shooting at 6K. I know the Avengers was shot larger than that. I'm pretty sure they shot 8K. But let's go 6K, and just want to take a quick look. So 4K, 72 frames per second max. What do we got for our 6K resolution? Is 6048 by 4032, right? So we got, I've never shot 6K, right? So I'm sort of looking through this. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different 6K resolutions. So which one are we looking? Now, I don't know what they do for high-end television production or for feature film in this case, but generally I'm used to working with Apple ProRes 444 and DNX HD, which doesn't seem to be listed. So I guess we're going to be shooting Apple ProRes. So let's take a look at. Here's what I'll do: 6K formats, right? Wikipedia usually has a really good sort of breakdown on aspect ratios and aspect ratio. Well, let's just do for 6K. Let's do this aspect ratio. Right? There's a few different aspect ratios that we're working with. Oh, so this is helpful, right? So if we're looking at this shot, it's likely 2401 or 2371. 1781 is HD. So yeah, it's likely, this is for the Dragon Red Epic. So let's do the 6K aspect ratios for the Sony Venice. Let's see if we get a breakdown chart. That would be quite cool. Full frame sensor, and it's not giving us a nice handy dandy chart like the other one. Let's see, the camera department. Maybe these guys will have a nice clear. There we go. This is what I'm after, right? I wanted to see what this is about. Let's see if we can zoom in. Let's open this image in a new tab, perhaps, and then see what's going on here. So, 6K full frame 3.2, and then there's 6K 17.9, 1851, 2391. Is that one? But there's no resolution attached. Now, what they generally tend to do is they shoot full frame with ground glass, right? So that's got the marks for the crop, but they generally shoot full frame just so they got that additional resolution. But I want to find out that resolution listing would be. It's probably this one, I'd imagine. 6144. Is that available to us? Let's have a look. No, it's 6048 by 40, 30. So slightly off from the Dragon Red Epics, looking mighty fine compared to that. Aspect ratio cheat sheet, let's check that guy out. So we're looking at 6K resolutions, 185. The aspect ratios generally shot are 1851 or 235 or 2401. And those resolutions are a little bit higher than what we're getting here in this listing. So what are they shooting? What are they shooting? Not 2K. DCP 2K, DCP 4K. It might be DCP 6K if that's such a thing. DCP 4K. Right, so that is. So 3840 2160 I know is 4K HD, right? So we're looking at 4K UHD. So 1779, so 3840 2160 is HD. 3840 2160. So this must be 6K HD or some variant thereof, right? So let's do this. Let's figure out what 6K HD is, right? So if we go to 6K full frame HD, 6K. Huh, okay. So it's not giving us the specific. Christ, Sony. What are you doing? Okay, let's try. So the unifying factor is the 6048, right? So let's go 6K aspect ratio 6048, right? So 6048 aspect ratio, right? This is interesting. Let's see what's going on here. So Sony Venice. Oh, that's good. Aspect ratio calculator. Why don't we do that? I hate this. I really hate this so much. I have no legitimate interest. I don't know what that means, but I'm just out of the context of it saying no, not interested, right? Okay, so let's calculate what our aspect ratio is at 3190 feels like it might be what we're after. So 3190, let's calculate that. What do we get? 19. So I think this aspect ratio, I'd imagine we want 3270. Let's try 3270. I think that's probably it right there. Let's calculate that bad boy. So that's the 185. There we go. So 1851. And we want to go 240 or 2351. So 4032 will be it. Okay. This is cool. I needed to kind of, all my knowledge is HD based. So I need to figure out what we're dealing with the larger resolutions, right? So this is 1.5 aspect ratio. 4032. And what we had was 3270. So it's more of a square, right? So this is 3270. That's 1851. Oh yeah, of course. So if we squish it down, 3190. 20. What's 2530? That's our 239. But we've lost resolution. Huh. All right, well, let's try it. We got room for a few different entries, right? So let's pop this in here. We've got 6K. Let's go. Do they have 2 to 1? Do they list the 2391? because I'm going to list it, right? Yeah, let's do that. So the 2391. 2391, that's cool. And our resolution is 6048 by 2530 with the loss of resolution due to compression. So there we go. We got our camera in there, which means I should now be able to select it, right? There we go. Cool. All right, so that's our camera. All right. So here's what we need to do in terms of shot planning. So let's pop over into Photoshop. I don't want to flip monitors. I'm gonna try and do this sort of drawing on the screen. Let's see how far we get. All right. And I don't need anything big. I'm not drawing a storyboard here. Just want to map out what you would probably see on the day. And I need to figure out how to turn off that default extras. Okay, so let's say we have our sound stage, right? Oh, that's awful. Right? And these are green screens, right? And so it'll likely be a green screen psych, right? So we'd have this nice kind of, oof, maybe I should be doing this on the Cintiq. So it'd be nice and curved, right? You know, so that we have a smooth area. And then we would have sort of the blasted out ruins of the planet, right? And then we'd have Gamora, and she'd be running across the surface this way, okay? So we know that the camera, let's actually move this. I'll move this guy forward just a little bit. Actually, you know what? Let's grab the whole thing. Okay, so let's say we got this situation and we know that the camera track will be laid down this way, right? Oh, this is god awful. It's cool though, because it prevents me from drawing pretty pictures, right? So let's say our camera's mounted on here, right? Whatever. It's supposed to look like a dolly. Okay, and on the day, the move is going to go this way, right? Okay, let's say that is the plan, right? And we watch the dudes setting up their cameras for this. So first of all, we're going to need a few things, aren't we? We're going to need a little bit of data, right? So we need to figure out the height of the camera. And then we obviously need the camera info, which we'll kind of dig into later. We would also need the positions of lights, right? So let's pop back in here. Go back to this color, right? So let's take a look at, well, let's sort of guess, right? So let's say even in the storyboards, we don't have a clear kind of delineating shadow, right? So we have to either have been present during the pre-light, or which oftentimes happens early in the morning, but let's say it's late at night and you know that tomorrow's shoot will happen in this particular soundstage, so you might take a wander in, which I'm known to do. And you sit there and you try to figure out, well, how are they going to light this thing, right? So obviously they're not going to be able to set up stands, so there might be some kind of dominant directional light this way, and then perhaps some suspended China lights here just to soften things up, right? They might do something like this, right? And then, well, because we need the green, there's not a lot you can do in terms of flagging stuff. You might put flags here, but that sort of depends on the day, right? So let's say we got those types of things for lighting, Okay, so we need witness cams set up, right? So we need to be able to accurately replicate. We need to send information to the facility side that accurately describes what the lights are doing and what the camera is doing, right? So first of all, I might come in here before the shooting starts or when I get an opportunity and maybe do a 360 panorama, right? Ooh, this is so difficult to do, right? 360, right? So we can get that. Witness camera. I might put one here. Now we usually use GoPros, right? So they'll have like a huge kind of field of view, and then we'll stick maybe another one. It's pretty straightforward. I think these two here would be good, right? Stuck up very high, and then we'll get the measurements of what we need afterwards, right? So we've got two witness cameras set up here, and we've taken our 360. We are going to need to take an HDRI, so the HDRI will need to happen here. HDR, and then over in this position, we're going to need to grab our chrome ball and our gray ball, right? And we'll also need our Macbeth color chart as well. Okay, so let's say we've mapped that out, right? I think I gravitated to this shot for a particular reason because it's fairly straightforward, right? So let's take a look at what we're dealing with and move the Photoshop off to the side. Let's watch the playback again. Oops, something's Photoshop redraw. That's cool. We got it. Let's pop back up here and do another quick look at this take. It's 135. Right? Really short. That's okay. So the camera. Ooh, it's not left to right. It's actually pushing in. So we're tracking in that away. It's really fast, so I'm wondering if it's I wonder if that's an actual camera. Let's take a look at that environment again. Okay, so yeah, that looks like set deck and prop department, right? So we got motion trackers here as well, but I'm not sure that they're entirely helpful other than providing a little bit of parallax information. I think in this particular shot, I might have kept those clean. No, it provides nice parallax information. It's just a pain to kind of remove those markers. Perhaps along the top would have been good. Yeah, perhaps along the, well, so we got, natural contrast from, you can see where the guys have set up the cyc actually, right? To give the smoothness, but there's a natural areas of contrast that a tracking marker can connect to, not very well, but this area here, that's good in terms of tracking markers being able to pick up the high contrast pixels and track that. Not entirely sure about these. Yeah, I think I would have removed some of those, maybe kept ones along the top above her head, but those probably had to be masked out, which probably wasn't very good. This looks somehow like it was enhanced. No, a camera can't push in that quick. So that must have been a digitally enhanced push in. So I don't know if you would supplement that with a move. You might, actually, just to give a little natural motion. Yeah, so here again, we had the tracks laid out. Oops. We have the tracks laid out this way. So we're actually traveling this way, which doesn't change our witness cam setup. That should be good. And pre-visualization will need maybe a little bit of, I wonder if they could work with the 360 HDR. Okay, let's pop back and take a look at our database, because we've had a nice long look at our shot now. Okay, so let's say we're dealing with take one, right? So we'll have to jot down the roll that was used, the filter. Now I don't know if they wouldn't filter this shot, because it's not an exterior. So none. Filter 2 has a value of NDR3. Do you want to set the later takes to none? No. Okay. And so shutter speed. Wow. Okay. So let's take a look at the motion blur here. So a lot of this stuff is going to be interesting to try and reverse engineer, right? I'll tell you what. There's very little motion blur. So let's go 180, right? The stops, that's hard to discern, man. So it's fast action. So we got a fast shutter, which is not a big deal. We've got a dominant light over here, right? You can see by the flare down here and how we've got that nice sort of kick light hit happening along the branches here. So that's good. I don't know, there's probably diffusion over here. And okay, so frames per second. Now I don't know if they would overcrank this, so let's just say it was shot at 24. F-stop. So it's a little, there's a deeper focus, right? So if it was an open lens, we'd have shallower depth of field, but it looks like we have a fairly deep focus on this shot, right? So again, I'm out of practice, guys, but I am going to guess at about f11, which means that luma of that light would have to have been fairly bright. What kind of lens? Wow, right. So we're not, let's see. Doesn't feel like a compressed shot to me. So it's tough when you're looking at 50 mil lens. It's really, really difficult. So I don't think that's a long lens, or I don't think that's a short lens. So, and there's no focal length changes, are there? Is there a slow? No, I mean, if you're gonna truck in, you're not gonna compound issues by doing any kind of focal length change. There's a lot of depth of field going on there. I'm gonna guess 35. 35 mil. Let's guess 35 mil. Right. Okay. So the height, right? So we're looking at a fairly low level shot. Because of the low angle, that's it's really tight there. So we're looking at 2 feet off the ground, 3 feet off the ground, right? So I'm not sure if we would do feet and inches, but probably not. I'd imagine it's centimeters. So unit scale, that's probably one thing that will need to be determined. Okay, so let's pop in here. I like that aspect ratio calculator, right? So let's convert feet to centimeters, right? So if I say 4 foot off the ground, it's 125 centimeters, something like that. Yeah, let's do that. 125 centimeters. And that's start to end. Is there a tilt? we have there? So just wondering how they would note that. So let's say there's a 10-degree tilt. And then focus distance, oof, that's variable, right? Probably why there's a deep focus on that shot, right? So focus distance, that's interesting. So let's say focus shot, subject distance changes, something like that. Okay, so let's pop into this area, which I think is quite interesting, right? So let's take, let me back up a sec till we get to this particular shot. There, right? Now, let's talk about what elements. So we've got our green screen, definitely. We're gonna need a matte painting. We're gonna have to paint a few things out. There's no rig removal, no 3D vehicle, but there's definitely a 2D composite. Are we gonna need a 3D character? I don't think so. Will we need a clean plate? That's difficult for that shot. But we definitely need the balls done, and I'd take photos anyway. I'd take photos, everything. HDRI, survey diagram, maybe. That might be overkill. Okay, cool. All right, I think I got that sort of sorted out, right? So let's take a look at, well, I can't add notes here, right? So I think that's all the info that I will need. Now I'll probably take a look at a couple of other data wrangling databases and see, well, let's have a look now, right? So if we were to data wrangle, notes, right? Okay, so let's see, some good tips for data wrangling on a budget. Onset Data Wrangler. Let's take a look. Wonder if they'll give us a list. No, doesn't give us a list of duties per se. All right. The upload and logging of data, that's a big job as well. Okay, what the measurements you'll want for visual effects shots. There we go. Let's take a look at this. So this might give us a little bit of an idea. It's not like I haven't done this before, but it has been a while, so it's good to, well, what I like to do is jog the memory, but also think of or run into certain things where I'm like, oh, okay, that's, I didn't think about that. That's really good to have. So focus distance, we've got that. Lens focal length, height of camera, tilt of camera, adapters, filters, cool. That's very basic. It's very basic. You know, for me, camera movement is another huge thing, right? Camera movement data, right? If there's any way we could capture camera movement data, that would be very, very interesting. And then when we look at the final, we can talk about what they did, if we can stop on it. Right? Okay, so looks like 2D smoke. Definitely a backplate. Because of the luma value on that matte painting, I don't really think it's a matte painting. It could be, now there's no way you would need to simulate that. So that's probably, yeah, I want to say, you know, perhaps a 2D particle effect inside of Nuke or After Effects with a glow pass. Yeah, and 2D smoke. Yeah, you just need a couple of 2D fog plates. There's quite a few different shape variations in the background. So that's kind of interesting. And it cuts away so quick, it's difficult to kind of analyze that. Okay, that's cool. I think I'm good with that for today. I will take a look at another shot and we'll add records to this and we'll take it from there. I'm going to save this. It's a little bit of practicing for today. And let's save a copy. Does this. Let's see what happens when we click close. Hopefully it'll auto save. Okay, that's it for today. I will kind of sign off. We'll take a look at another shot. We'll do this again. Run through the kind of gears of how